Round one of the WWE Cruiserweight Classic is in the books, and we're here to review it, take a look at the styles in play, and look forward to round two. So stay with us.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV's bracket breakdown for the WWE Cruiserweight Classic. I am one of your hosts, the Internet's Mark B. Donica, and you can find me on Twitter at Mark B. Donica, joined by my colleagues, the esteemed Bill Hanstock.
Hi, everybody.
And the also purpled Ty Matthews.
Fantastic beer. We had to keep it on theme.
100%. Gentlemen, you look great.
Thank you.
I'm glad we all called each other last night. Indiscriminate of, like, wearing semi-nice clothes. Except for Bill, who looks like $1 million. We're here, finally doing it. We're talking about the Cruiserweight Classic. We're doing it a little bit more, doing it less traditional than a regular after show here. We're going to start by giving our overall impressions of the tournament so far. 32 men, 16 countries. Gentlemen, what do you think?
I mean, it went by so quickly. Mm-hmm. I think we had been hearing about it for so long, and it was one of those things, it always seemed so far off on the horizon. And I know, I mean, speaking for me, but I'm sure you guys as well have always loved a good tournament. Mm-hmm. Going back to, you know, the Super J Cup, the Best of the Super Juniors, Ted Petty Invitational. There's
King of the Ring.
Absolutely, just the King of the Ring even. There's such a rich history of classic bracketed tournaments. And so,
what's the first wrestling tournament you remember?
It had to have been King of the Ring.
King of the Ring.
It had to have been the King of the Ring that I think Bret Hart won.
The first two tournaments I remember, I remember hearing about the WrestleMania 4 tournament. I didn't actually start watching until between WrestleMania 5 and WrestleMania 6. But when Ultimate Warrior won both titles at WrestleMania 6,
there you go.
He vacated the Intercontinental title, and they had a tournament to determine the new Intercontinental champion. And that finals match between Tito and Mr. Perfect.
I would also be remiss to forget the Karate Fighters tournaments.
Yes,
those were legitimately.
They were legit. They were shoots.
I swear to God, they really. Yeah. I loved. That's legitimately where my love of bracketed tournaments came from, because
Sable's going against Lawler.
Someone, like one person, has to go completely undefeated.
Of course, the Brawl for All.
The Brawl for All, of course.
WMAC Masters.
That was always a big favorite.
Wonderful tournaments, the lot. We have competitors that are familiar, unfamiliar with some history, been going for over a decade, some of these folks, and some folks who are standouts in their own countries, being the progenitors, if I may steal one, of wrestling in their countries.
Sure.
Who of these competitors did you expect to impress, and then who has surprised you so far?
Well, I felt like when the bracket was announced and when the competitors were announced, it seemed pretty clear that the first round was just about establishing the people that you're going to be following through the subsequent rounds.
Seemingly.
But there were a lot of people that didn't win matches that I came away with being like, no, I want to see more of the other guy.
Sure.
Especially in the most recent episode, which we'll get to. I felt like this most recent episode had the two best matches of the tournament
by far. Definitely.
I can agree with that.
But Aichner,
I love Fabian Aichner.
Amazing.
Wow.
Amazing. There was another guy who looked like $1 million. Let me just steal this.
Go ahead.
On this past episode?
No. Aichner really impressed me in the first round. I thought that Damian Slater had an amazing look. I want to see more of him.
Damian's great.
I want to see more of. Raul Mendoza.
That's who I was going to say really surprised me more than anyone in the first
Mustafa
round.
Mustafa Ali and
was
Size. I actually want to see more of Size.
Alejandro Size was definitely one of the surprises to me. You know, we talked about how the first round, it really seemed like establishing the guys that came in with a lot of presence and a lot of kind of value to their name, and Size was one of those guys that we didn't really expect a lot from, and not the least of which because he's got such an atypical body type for a tournament like this.
Especially because like there was so much talk about like how he was the one who cut 30 pounds.
Right.
He had lost the most weight. He was the heaviest competitor before the tournament, and then he gets in there and he's like throwing shooting star presses off the apron, and you're like, this guy's normally
he still could have done that.
To look at him, and it's I know offense to Alejandro Saez,
Right.
but it's kind of one of the less spectacular
Definitely.
physiques
Yeah.
of the field.
And his gear is not impressive.
Exactly. And so seeing him busting out like the dive feints a la Cesaro or the apron shooting star press, things like that were really, really eye-openers that you knew that Grand Metalik was in a position to advance, but Saez really, really...
There's something so wonderful about seeing someone do something that you're not, like Eichner,
Exactly.
Well, that's one of the reasons why Brian Cage is such a phenomenon and why Apollo Crews should be such a phenomenon.
He's getting
is
there.
Because when you see people do things that you don't expect people who look like that to do, it's magical.
Exactly. I think that's a big appeal of someone like a Willie Mack. You know, you see someone of that size.
Never going to be in the Cruiserweight tournament.
Right, exactly. But
Sadly.
someone that similarly, like a lot of these guys in this, are of a size and of a physique that he shouldn't physically be able to do the things that he does.
But he does. With fervor. I would also like to say Clement Pichot as well was a big fan of his
Pichot's
work.
great.
Definitely.
And Tyson Dukes looked $10 million.
Oh my God. Like I've been familiar, like most of the people who won in the first round I was familiar with ahead of time, and I've been watching them for years. Tyson Dukes, one, he's been around forever.
Right.
Two, he looks amazing considering his age and how long he's been around.
They showed a clip of him from Velocity. That's how long he's been around.
Yeah, that's right. But in his match with Zack Sabre Jr., one, it was one of like the least impressive Zack Sabre Jr. matches I've ever seen. But the entire time I was like, I just want to watch more Tyson Dukes.
Yeah, exactly.
The entire match.
That's
I was
not
like,
even.
I want to see more Tyson Dukes.
That's not even a knock on the match, but it's a testament to Zack Sabre Jr. that it was still great to see, but it was one of his least impressive.
Yeah.
But Tyson Dukes, I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm mistaken, he's the second oldest in the entire field.
Yeah.
He's 38, 39 years old.
38 years old, next to only Tajiri, who's 43.
Right.
And
How old's the Brian Kendrick?
The Brian
Like
Kendrick.
36?
I'd say mid-30s.
Yeah, he started very, very
Yeah, he
young.
did. Spanky.
I think it might be 35, 36, something like that.
A bunch of people in here who are on Velocity.
Former champions as well. Who was your proposed winner going into round one?
One last,
Please.
who we wish we'd seen more of, Zumbi.
Who got pulled out.
Got canned before, or not canned, but he got pulled from the tournament before it even began.
Didn't even make weight.
Man alive, I just wanted to see that guy in the tournament.
But we did get Mustafa Ali in
that's
exchange.
True. That's
so
true. All right.
And that would have totally changed Zumbi versus Lince Dorado. If it was just spot for spot, would have been remarkable. But we got a completely different style of match as a result.
For sure.
Gentlemen, who are your proposed winners
Of the
for
whole
the
tournament?
entire tournament before round one even got underway?
Who were?
Who were?
I was before seeing the brackets and stuff. I was thinking it would be a final of either Ibushi versus Swan or Ibushi versus Sabre Jr.
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think that's the smarter than the average wrestling fan would think. That's
I believe this will be a showcase for Zack Sabre Jr.
Sabre.
Yeah, I definitely. When I saw all of the participants announced, I thought Ibushi or possibly, and this is a little bit more going out on a limb, but maybe Tozawa.
Yeah, for me it was Tozawa or Ibushi when I first saw all of the competitors. But yeah, with all of the talk,
the great news is if there's any truth to any of these rumors, which there totally is, we're going to be seeing a lot more of a lot of these guys.
Sure.
Yeah, and
especially once the Cruiserweight division launches on Raw.
And we've just been seeing them on NXT. Sean Maluda made an appearance.
We saw Maluda, we saw Ibushi.
Amazing. Yes. So we're going to see more of them in the weeks upcoming to help promote the Cruiserweight Classic, as if it needed any additional promotion. So I wanted to go through some of the popular styles that these gentlemen use. We've got strong style, technical, submission, high flying, catch wrestling, lucha libre, striker, entertainer, which I saw in a couple people, which I found pretty interesting, and mixed martial arts. And then also Saez put a Japanese style, but I just lumped that in with
strong style.
Yeah. So strong style for those who don't know it, gentlemen. We're starting to see more of it appear in American wrestling.
Comes from Japanese wrestling.
As the name implies, lots of hard strikes, lots of just really laying it in and trying to hurt your opponent.
Japanese wrestlers have long been very widely publicized as being very eager when they're wrestling in Japan to be insistent upon dishing out a lot of punishment, receiving a lot of punishment. And that's sort of a rite of passage for like gaijin wrestlers who go to Japan, is like, if you don't take a big shot and give a big shot, they won't respect you.
Right.
That's the culture. That, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong there.
No, that's absolutely right. And obviously a big emphasis on submission wrestling as well.
Yes, and speaking of submission, episode 3 was entirely won by submission, which was amazing to me. Yeah. So submission, of course, you're trying to make your opponent tap out through.
Use holds, locks.
Right. Or even verbally submit, as we saw in the case of Zack Sabre Jr. versus Tyson Dukes.
When you can't physically
when you literally
tap.
don't have access
or
to
with,
your hand.
with the back of your hand. Like
which used to be, there used to be only 2 ways in wrestling that you could submit before mixed martial arts became a thing.
Oh, yeah.
The ref had to hear your verbal submission or drop the arm 3 times.
Right.
And then throwing the towel became a thing.
Yeah, really, it was kind of the Ken Shamrock sort of ankle lock that
Ken Shamrock brought it in.
Tapping out,
Ken Shamrock brought in the tap out. Yep.
Technical style, Bill?
Technical style is very similar to submission wrestling, but it's not an emphasis so much on strict submissions. Like Zack Sabre Jr. will work arms and try and get arm submissions, hand submissions, finger submissions, wrist submissions. Technical style is closer to Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, mat-based wrestling, Chris Benoit, of course.
Well, and it's interesting that there's technical and then there's catch wrestling.
Yes.
And it's almost like catch is sort of the hyper-advanced version of technical. I feel like when people have technical, it's almost more of a catch-all, where you're not really high flyer, you're not really striker, you're not really submission
You're not
artist.
a power wrestler.
Exactly.
You're just a wrestler.
When you're a technical wrestler, you may be like me, you might favor suplexes, things like that. But when you're a catch wrestler, that's where we saw some of the escapologists that we saw in the field.
Drew Gulak, Jack Gallagher.
Goodness.
Catch wrestling is just, exactly as the name says, you're trying to catch any advantage you can. Catch a toe, catch a elbow, and trap someone and wrestle them down to the mat.
Right.
As opposed to submission wrestling, as opposed to technical wrestling.
Right.
And I'll put these together a little bit. High flying is what people usually associate with cruiserweights. We see it a lot of dives. Tope con heel. And lucha libre, which we only saw. We have a small smattering of folks. Gran Metalik, Lince Dorado. And then I have everybody here, Raul Mendoza as well. Not as many as I would expect from the first tournament.
Right, and even then, Mendoza seemed to favor a lot more striking than most luchadors typically do.
He definitely didn't appear to wrestle a lucha based.
Right.
I think he had to adapt because of Brian Kendrick.
It honestly seemed like every time I was watching Cruiserweight Classic and I would look up at the matchup screen, like everyone said it, like it seemed like it said high flyer for everybody.
It either said high flyer or technical for each person.
Yeah. Right.
Striker, pretty self-explanatory.
Sorry, of course, is Matt Striker.
Former competitor.
I would have loved to have seen him in this tournament.
Or Striker with a Y, former
Mortal Kombat tournament.
No, Matt Striker.
Completely different.
Yes.
Entertainer style, which was interesting. This was Ho-Ho-Loon. No, that wasn't Ho-Ho-Loon.
Oh, was it?
No, that was
the Sears?
Damac.
Oh, Damac.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure Rich Swan.
I guess. Okay, I could see that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, which is
just flashy,
more flashy for the crowd, with a little bit less of a focus on your opponent to sort of take them off their game.
What wrestlers on the main WWE roster NXT would you say would fit under the entertainer style?
I mean, Enzo Amore maybe.
Yeah.
No Way Jose comes to mind.
No Way Jose for sure.
Yeah.
Fandango.
But
Tyler
it's interesting. I wouldn't even necessarily call that a style. That falls into the category of
just every wrestler.
Yeah, that's things that you do in between moves.
Yeah.
Everyone has styles apart from the things that they do to entertain the crowd.
Mm-hmm. And it's also like, it's something you say in a bar. It's like, what do you do? I'm an entertainer. You know, what do you do? I'm a wrestler. Yeah, I mean,
have you ever heard Billy Joel's song "The Entertainer"? It's me.
It's about me.
Or the Scott Joplin song.
Wow, going way back.
Deep.
Hey, you ever hear that ice cream truck going around? They're talking about me.
They're talking about it.
Also, I'm a turkey in the straw.
Turkey in the straw.
Oh man, you should have a move called Turkey in the Straw.
Oh man.
It's something where you make him do like the hand turkey and peel it back.
No, they should.
Turkey in the straw.
What Turkey in the Straw should be is that now ubiquitous for whatever reason thing of like a guy gets up on the second rope facing out and he gets his head trapped against the turnbuckle and then kicked through his legs.
Become really popular.
It's like everywhere,
and
now.
it's a very specific thing to
there's
become so popular.
And there's no term for that, right? Is there?
I mean, not really.
Yeah.
No,
Just kick in the corner.
But now I'm gonna,
right?
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna call it the Turkey in the Straw.
Turkey in the Straw.
Tell Joe and Johnny at Hollywood, and then we'll start it through there.
Exactly, because
Does anyone at Hollywood do that?
We've seen. I'm sure someone does. It's the
other Jarek.
Semi-comp.
right. Probably, yeah.
Jarek 120.
Dark Jarek.
That's very possible. It's very possible. I mean, we've seen on the main roster, we've seen Tyler Breeze busted out. We saw Johnny Gargano busted out in this last episode.
Any indie show you go to, you're going to see at least
You're going to see it's become
once or twice. All right, so let's take a look at the matches directly from week 1. We had Alejandro Saez versus Grand Metalik, Arya Daivari versus Ho Ho
Brother of Daivari.
Actual brother of Daivari, yes. Cedric Alexander versus Clement Pichot, and our main event, Kota Ibushi versus Sean Maluta. Favorite match of the night between these 4?
Probably Cedric Alexander versus Clement Pichot.
My favorite of these 4 might have been Saez and Metalik, actually.
Yeah, that would be my second choice.
Yeah.
Like, it's always cool watching Ibushi wrestle, but
he's become so good that you're not really surprised by how good he is anymore.
And especially this match, like, no, all respect to Sean Maluta, you just it's such a foregone conclusion.
There was
Ibushi versus Sean Maluta.
Exactly. Whoever was put in that spot against him was in an unenviable spot.
It was like Great Khali versus Scotty Goldman.
Exactly. Yeah. Out of anyone in the first round, you knew for an absolute guarantee that Kota Ibushi was at least moving on to the next round.
Yeah, Sean Maluta couldn't quite get his bearing throughout the entirety of the match. Pulled off some amazing feats.
I will say that Savat kick that he busted out was an absolute thing of beauty.
It was real good.
Cedric Alexander has always been great, but man alive, I cannot think of anyone in wrestling who has benefited more from losing like 15 pounds than Cedric. He looks amazing now. He clearly feels much better moving around at this weight. It's just it's such a switch that's been flipped.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
And it's very fun to watch him. And man, the lumbar check is such a killer finisher.
Oh, and it looked gorgeous.
Disgusting.
Yeah, we saw different kind of versions of double knee backbreakers throughout the first round, and they were all one of the most gorgeous. Clement, I got a chance to work on a couple shows with him a couple years ago. Nice. Out here, he worked for Mach 1 back in, I believe it was 2010, RIP. 2011. RIP. The former Tristan Archer, but just super more entertaining, I think, than this match might have led on.
Yeah. It was surprising because a lot of these, with the first match, it started out with, all of the matches started with an explanation of the rules and a handshake, and we got a hint from Daivari and Ho Ho Lun's match that
not everyone would respect the code of honor.
Not everyone's going to respect the code of honor. It might be a little bit more story here. People are going to go super heel, maybe, as opposed to just being a strict athletic contest, as we know wrestling is. But it gave us a hint that maybe we were going to see a little bit more character, and we haven't as much, which I found interesting.
Right.
A lot of all of the matches in the first round, I would say, with the exception of maybe a couple, were just wrestling.
And
I did appreciate, and I've talked about this on the NXT show before. I really appreciate that every single person in the tournament gets at least a minute or two of a video package to explain this is who the person is, this is who the character is, this is why you should care about them at least a little bit.
Get them training a little bit.
And that's fantastic.
Right.
That's all you need.
And I think this, ironically enough, this episode just as a whole might have been the exception to that rule. Because I feel like this episode, these 4 matches specifically, had more kind of a classic pro wrestling story to them. They all had a clear defined line between villain, fan favorite, things like that. We saw a lot, especially from Alejandro Saez, a lot of kind of grimacing,
overt selling,
right,
quote unquote. It was. I think this is a way to fade the average fan into what a wrestling contest this whole tournament was going to be.
Right, and it should also be noted that they aired a lot of the matches out of order of how they filmed them. So.
Speaking to the story, I loved the video bits that they played in front of everybody's matches. It ruined some of the commentary for me personally. Going back to Fabian Eichner, they showed him doing the triangle moonsault from outside to in.
Exactly.
It's like, unexpected. Where did that come from? We saw him practicing.
We got a lot of stuff given away in those packages as well that we should have exactly seen for the first time.
But with this show
like
specifically,
how before Apollo Crews even had a match, you saw him doing.
We saw him doing the moonsaults. Yeah, why would you give that away?
with this one specifically, Cedric Alexander, his pastor said he would never make it, but here he is. You know, totally got
what
me.
What a jerk pastor!
Seriously. But so from episode 1 and just episode 1, out of these 8 men, the standout competitor, MVP of episode 1.
I would say either Ibushi or Alexander.
I mean, I would say Ibushi, but it's like I said, he's so good that you kind of expect it. I wouldn't call him the standout only because we've all known for a very long time how good he is. Right. If I'm talking standouts,
size.
I mean, size might have been it for me.
I gotta go with Ari Daivari.
Yeah,
like he had everything for me. He was a really good classic heel, and really helped Holland adapt to what the American style of pro wrestling is, and helped him out a bit. Sure. But I was very sad to see him not advance.
Right.
Same. Just to be negative for just 1 minute, it seemed like every episode there was like one match that was just like nothing. Right. And Holland versus Ari Daivari was that for me.
And that was
I mean, as much as I like Daivari, and I think I personally like him better than his brother.
Yeah.
But like it just that match was just like.
And I think when that happens, it's more a matter of chemistry than anything else.
And it's chemistry and a burnout crowd and just like.
Yeah, because that was something I didn't realize until today, that every round 1 match was taped all on the same set of tapes.
Same day.
One day.
And this could have been one that was later in the show.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And I think that this tournament, this show is really benefiting from only 4 matches, only 1 hour every week, because if it was any more than that, it would just be all way too much of the same. Like as much as we all like wrestling, it's like
there's a lot of stuff that you see in a lot of these matches.
Like it's fun to go to a PWG show, but it's just like after you watch a PWG show, you're like, I just want to lay down.
Right. Right.
Hey, let's go. Let's watch Stranger Things.
Exactly. Have you started yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
I had to rewatch all of these episodes. Yeah. Let's take a look at our week 2 matches. We had Tajiri versus Damian Slater, TJ Perkins versus Domac, Return of Domac, Mustafa Ali versus Lindsay Dorado,
Domac,
Akira Tozawa versus Kenneth Johnson. Standout competitor in these matches. Who really stood out to you?
I wanted it to be Tozawa, but on this episode, that was the match that was just nothing.
Right.
And it was just bad chemistry.
Yeah, they
and
just did not work well together.
Crowd. Yeah. And the crowd, I think the crowd was really unfamiliar with Tozawa, as much as like the Full Sail crowd prides itself on like being keyed in.
Sure.
I don't think they knew how to react to Tozawa.
Yeah.
And he's such a fun guy that was a huge bummer.
And it's I think one thing that might have hurt him that nobody really expected is the having to be PG in this ring.
Yeah.
One of the most fun things
instead of DG
about Tozawa is that kind of the only English that he'll bust out in the ring is profanity. Yeah.
So as much as I love Tajiri, I mean Tajiri's always Tajiri. You know, he's always going to be great. So I'm going to have to say the MVP of this episode was Mustafa Ali.
I gotta agree. Yeah.
Agree. And it's interesting to think that Zumbi would have changed the entire landscape of this episode, of that match, but they just had such a good chemistry that I could watch that. That was one of those fight forever matches.
Sure, and that imploding 450 is, I mean, needs to be on every highlight reel of this entire tournament.
Yep. Absolutely disgusting, and I love it. Favorite match, Mustafa Ali, Lindsay Dorado?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
This was kind of a clunker of an episode for me.
A little bit. I would say a little bit. TJ Perkins and DeMac, I would say they also suffered from not having a good chemistry.
Sure. I mean, it was fun. There were fun, high energy. There's dancing. You know, all that good stuff.
But it seemed more like TJ was just trying to shut up DeMac.
Right.
Shut up, DeMac. Yeah. So week 2, kind of self-explanatory. Did anybody expect Tajiri to lose? as being
No. And I love me some Damian Slater,
and
for sure.
especially the way
And
that
again,
they sold
looked like
him.
$1 million. Want to see more of them.
Right.
And the way that they sold him was, I beat this person, everybody underestimated me. So it's like, I bought into it. I was immediately like, okay, maybe this kid is going to beat Tajiri
Right.
and instantly get put on the map with WWE. Not Tajiri.
And it's also great to see a guy who looks like that get beat by like a 45-year-old guy with no physique.
Sure.
Just because Tajiri is Tajiri.
Well, and looking at these brackets, and we'll get to our predictions for round 2 and what we're looking forward to, but once you saw that the winner of Tajiri and Damian Slater would be facing Grand Metalik in the second round, you knew it had to be Tajiri, if for nothing else than to call back those Tajiri super crazy matches from ECW.
Man,
Which I think is what we're in store for.
what a callback. Y'all have the WWE Network. Do yourself some research. Watch some of that amazing stuff. And while you're there, watch the 2 out of 3 falls match between Rey Mysterio and Psychosis from ECW,
Definitely.
which is one of the best cruiserweight matches ever of all time. So let's move on to week 3, where we had Zack Sabre Jr. versus Tyson Dukes, Harv Shearer versus Drew Gulak. Sierra, excuse me. Anthony Bennett versus Tony Nese. Not Tony Bennett, that would be weird. Raul Mendoza versus Brian Kendrick. Gentlemen, this episode, despite every decision was a submission, and yet they kept it so. I think this is the most complete episode of round 1 so far.
That's a great way to put it, for sure.
I would say episode 4 is the most complete episode, but I didn't have any problems with this episode.
Right.
Like, again, my only problem was like, man, I want to see more Tyson Dukes.
Absolutely, yeah. I want to see more Tyson Dukes.
I want to see more Raul Mendoza.
I want to see more of the Bollywood Boys.
More of the Bollywood Boys. I mean,
I think we will.
We're in a tag team revolution right now in both NXT and we need a lot of tag teams on the main roster.
Right.
So I don't think it would be silly to see the Bollywood Boys go straight up to the main roster.
I could see that, yeah.
I mean, they're tag team champions right now, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I mean, the sleeper of this really entire tournament was Kendrick and Mendoza for me.
So good.
I really was not.
And the story that Kendrick is telling in this Cruiserweight Classic is so good, and it's pushed so hard by Daniel Bryan.
Right.
And he's doing such great character work, and he's undergone such a such a transformation. Like the last time I saw him wrestle on the Indies, like he had so much junk. He's slimmed down so much.
Right, exactly.
Like he's gotten so slender just all the way. Like,
right.
It's wild, and he looks like almost a completely different person with the facial hair and the slender physique. And
he wrestles like a completely different person.
Sure, yeah.
If you look at the era of Spanky and you compare it to the era of London and Kendrick, to the era of the Brian Kendrick, to the era of now, they're all completely different competitors. Yeah. And so seeing how aggressive and how just, really hard hitting he was in this match, I think that really brought out the best in Raul Mendoza, and it was all that he could have asked for.
And it turned from a story of redemption to a man who will do anything to get back on
Making
top.
him bite the rope so he can kick his
Oh my God.
In. And then he started bleeding out of his
This
mouth.
got so unexpectedly graphic.
Yeah. In the best and worst possible way.
And I do love the call from Morrow that he wears those braces because he wanted to have nice teeth.
He wanted to have a nice smile.
I mean, that's traditionally what braces
That's what they're for.
They're for.
He drank water so he wouldn't be thirsty.
He went to the Ortho Wizard.
But just, such an unexpectedly aggressive, violent match. I mean, the coast to coast that Mendoza brought out.
Yeah.
The weird kind of inverted cloverleaf into the giant swing.
That was cool.
Another one of my favorite moments of the first round.
Really cool. My favorite match of this was Harv Zera versus Drew Gulak, just because I can watch Drew Gulak wrestle a phone book, and it'll be interesting.
And he would get a 5-star match out of it.
Exactly. And again about the Bollywood Boys, both in this episode and week 4, just absolutely phenomenal. Favorite match, both of you, was Raul Mendoza versus Brian Kendrick?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Standout competitor, Raul Mendoza?
I'd say so.
MVP of this episode?
And Tyson Dukes.
Tony Nese, though.
Tony Nese is
monster.
We can't sleep on him because I don't think there's anyone as well-rounded in the tournament as Tony Nese. Between someone that has the size, the power, the agility, and the showmanship, I don't think there's as complete of a package as the premier athlete.
It's in the name,
and I think that was another one of those things, like we said, that it was just plagued with bad chemistry, and one of those matches that we kind of knew going in as soon as we saw the two of them who was going forward.
Honestly, with the exception of the main event on this one, all the other matches were sort of like, I just want to see them do their second round match.
Right, exactly.
Because I saw Tony Nese and All Ego Ethan Page just absolutely destroy each other in a no DQ match on WrestleMania weekend.
Okay.
And like I want to see I just want to see Tony Nese wrestle a match like that's competitive and important.
And not only that, I think that the momentum of their finish got completely wrecked.
Yeah,
Anthony got his bell rung.
Yeah, on that power slam, that pump handle power slam.
Yeah, a stand-up show.
No one's fault.
No, not at all.
It happens. That's part of the competition.
It was the momentum. Right. It was like at Takeover Dallas, the match between Balor and Samoa Joe.
I thought that really benefited because.
Do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Because Joe did so much character work and getting frustrated that he couldn't get in there and beat on him.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And now he's the Blood Man.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mommy, why is the Blood Man so angry?
So let's move on to episode 4, the final round 1 episode. We had Rich Swan versus Jason Lee, Noam Dar versus Gurv Sira, Jack Gallagher versus Fabian Eichner, and Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa. I know I said that the episode 3 was super complete, but this one.
Yeah, now that we revisit the matches,
this was absolutely the best the best episode of the first 4, entirely because of the last 2 matches. I love Rich Swan to death, but it was just it was short and it was just like a little Rich Swan showcase, which was fine. Noam Dar and Gurv Sira was nothing. Right. That was the nothing match.
Right.
Like, I loved Gurv's entrance, and he had a whole section of people doing the Bollywood dance.
Sure.
It was awesome, and then it was just nothing. Like,
the
crowd could not care about anything.
Which I think serves to recording out of order, because if we don't know what order they did it in.
That was the 14th match.
That was the actual 14th match? Okay, so the crowd should have presumably gotten behind him after seeing his brother eliminated, so that there could be hope for the Sira brothers.
Right.
That was the story that I was interested in for that match. Right. But with Noam Dar having so much behind him.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of Noam Dar. I've seen a lot of his stuff on the indies, but I think I'm very, very much excited to see his next.
His progression.
His next matchup, yeah.
I could build an entire promotion around just Jack Gallagher and Fabian Eichner.
Right.
They're both so amazing. Jack Gallagher, to me, is everything that Zack Sabre Jr. should be.
That's exactly right.
He's just as talented a wrestler. He has amazing personality, amazing charisma. He has a defined character. He has an amazing, unique look. Mm-hmm. He's
like if Conan O'Brien was inhabited by the spirit of Johnny Saint.
Yeah, he's almost like a World of Sport Dalton Castle.
Exactly.
But not so.
I mean, the music, the music that he was coming out to really set the tone.
I loved this match so much.
Yeah, from the bell.
If that main event hadn't been on there, that's the best. Absolute best match of the first round.
100%.
Gallagher versus Eichner.
Fabian Eichner is, talk about guys, like Raul Mendoza that we didn't really expect a lot from. Mm-hmm. Fabian Eichner was another guy that I really, he looked like he stepped out of, Velocity in 2005. And
was he a Basham brother?
Right, exactly.
Well, he also looks like he could just be the absorbing man, like Crusher Creel.
Sure.
But I mean, put Fabian Eichner in NXT
right now.
Exactly, yeah.
If there's anybody from this entire first round that isn't already like a huge international superstar for 10 years, and no disrespect to anybody, Fabian Eichner is the top of my list of somebody you need to be in NXT now.
Right.
And also just to really quick touch back on Swan for a minute, like we've all watched Swan for years, and we know how awesome he is and how great he is. His story is really good. His video package was amazing, and it's so great to see the WWE camera work, especially this new era of WWE camera work and production, make his standing 450 just look so fantastic. It makes you remember oh yeah, that's a really awesome, unique move. Yeah, and that's a move that's so cool that someone can get signed off it or have a career off it.
And it was the
perfect, the Red Arrow.
Like the Red Arrow.
Right, exactly. And I think that standing 450 was the perfect way for him to finish his first round match.
For sure.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think the match was a way to get people away from All Night Long and into his new...
Yes, his new song's so good.
Really good.
But only the second best new song we heard this week.
Yeah, next to Bobby Roode.
But that flat-footed jump to the Frankensteiner off the top.
Disgusting.
Holy
I hated
Lord.
it. I loved it. It was absolutely beautiful.
Well, we got to talk about the main event.
Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso
What
Ciampa.
a story. What a match.
Johnny Gargano getting everything beaten out of him by Tommaso Ciampa and pulling out the surprise win.
We finally see the Sicilian psychopath, the psycho killer in WWE.
And that's the thing, yeah. It's so hard for a character like that to come out in tag team action that this is exactly what it needed. And Gargano, just the same, by the same token, he's at his best when he's getting the piss knocked out of him.
This match was just told us, and it was one of the only matches in the first round because it's two people
You're familiar with as a
and you
WWE viewer.
and it's a match that you couldn't pick
Exactly.
So this match had tension, and it had
exactly.
story and
We talked
suspense.
about how this was the only one out of the first round that
it's
we
hard to
couldn't
pick.
call.
But that spear, I love Gargano's step through the ropes spear, but the spear into the knee, holy Christ!
You tweeted that today, and then a few above, Wrestling Giffer posted that.
Oh, nice.
It's like, oh god,
That's great.
Right.
Or Giffer, depending on which part of the country you're from.
Pop.
Amazing match.
the story was so compelling of Ciampa being I'm gonna hit him with the bare knee. No, I can't. That's too far.
Right.
As important as this is, I don't want to ruin his entire career.
He's still my
kill him.
friend.
There was so much. There was so
Ghost.
much pathos in this match. Similar to at Battleground, the finish that we saw between.
And the fact that the match ended on Gargano not really beating him, just getting lucky.
Exactly.
Just catching him.
And
because he was out-wrestled and outmatched in this.
It was the perfect way to end it. Both guys came out looking so good.
And which match of Battleground?
And the finish between Owens and Zayn. There was so much story there and so much pathos there, similar to here. It was incredible, and it was the same sort of.
For sure.
It was a brief moment of compassion that led. In one moment, it led to the win. In this, it led to his downfall.
Yeah, and this ending with the two of them on the mat, sitting next to each other like buddies,
hugging.
just
And such an interesting take on the respect and the sportsmanship after the match.
And also, what also was so good about the story that they were telling was Tommaso Ciampa not going for the bare knee isn't what cost him the match.
No.
The match kept going after that.
Right.
He got caught with a super kick, but then he kicked out. And it's not that's the one thing that led to his downfall. It's just a part of it.
Right.
Because if that had been directly the finish, he pulls the knee pad up and then gets caught with a finisher or something, that's just him being dumb.
But in theory, if he had hit the unshielded knee,
absolutely. But I'm just saying, on the main roster, something like that happens.
Sure.
He gets caught with a finisher and then he looks like an idiot, right?
or a roll up and
or someone's music
Someone
hits
on the outside's like, "Hey!"
yeah, somebody's music hits and he's like, "Wait a minute!"
and then skull.
Yeah,
Rook up here.
terrible. So that ended round one. Is that easy to say that was your favorite match of the entire round?
Oh, it's
those
easily.
two matches were absolutely my favorite matches.
And the other being Gallagher and
Eichner. And especially that running dropkick in the corner. My God.
Right in the face.
Oh, my God.
And Daniel Bryan selling it so hard of I've hit so many people with running dropkicks.
It looked better than any corner dropkick Daniel Bryan had ever hit.
It was amazing.
Yeah. It was the only running corner dropkick that looked, the second he hit it, you're like, oh, that's got to be the finish.
MVP of the entire round, not just of each episode, but of the entire first round.
I said Mendoza, but I think I'm going to go with Gallagher.
Yeah, either Gallagher or Eichner, but I'm going to say Gallagher. I'm just all in,
Yeah.
Honestly, I had never seen a full match of his before.
No, me neither.
But I saw him and I'm like, this is what Zack Sabre Jr. I like Zack Sabre Jr. I don't know why people like him that much.
Right.
Especially when you have Jack Gallagher. Because it's oh, here's a guy who has absolutely everything.
Right. Yeah.
And almost the exact same style. The same world of sport, but fancy escapes.
But it looks prettier and it looks crisper.
And he tells more of a story with going hold to hold than just look what I can do.
And what little character and personality that Zack Sabre Jr. has, he should be a heel,
Right.
but he never is.
Right.
But he's just so smug all the time, and so like, well, check out this move I'm gonna do.
Harry Potter ain't the only wizard.
Does this move make you want it, baby?
Okay, now we're going way down the rabbit hole.
That's a perfect impression of Zack.
Dead on.
If I'm not
the
saying
cheeky Nando's.
So I would say Jack Gallagher, but I would also say Tony Nese as well. Just as somebody who showed everything that they offer and more.
Right.
I'm
Someone
all about
that's
it.
shown so much more than the match that they were in, I think.
Yeah. And if it is somebody different than the person you said, who do you think has the most momentum going into round 2?
It's got to be Ibushi. If we're talking about pure momentum.
Yeah, it's got to be Ibushi.
None more than the Golden Star.
Ibushi's just like a steamroller on his side of the bracket.
Right, exactly. If you really wanted to melt someone, it would be by eliminating Ibushi from this tournament.
Yeah. Who would gain the most from eliminating Kota Ibushi from the tournament?
Eliminating Ibushi.
From who we have
What are the
left?
possibilities here?
Well, Cedric Alexander.
Yeah, is who he's against.
who he's against.
And then who are the two below?
Kendrick and Nice are whoever's facing the winner of that match.
Is that
That's
right?
above.
Yeah, so it's either
I'm seeing Ibushi right there at the top there.
Right, he's the second match from the top on the right side.
Right.
And then Kendrick and Nice is right above him.
So Tony Nese versus
I
Brian
see.
Kendrick. So we might see either of those matches: Brian Kendrick
yeah.
versus Kota Ibushi, or Tony Nese versus Kota Ibushi.
I think Kendrick has the most to gain, but Kendrick or Alexander would have the most to gain by defeating Kota Ibushi, but I don't think he's going to lose in the second round.
But I mean, theoretically, it also could be anyone in that lower half of the right
So
side.
we've also got TJ Perkins versus Johnny Gargano, and then Lindsay Dorado versus.
I mean, maybe
Jack Gallagher.
Rich Swan.
Rich Swan.
Sorry, we got a little bit of a.
Yeah, but I do think that either Kendrick or Alexander would have the most to gain by eliminating Ibushi, because Kendrick's the guy who's on the redemption story, and Alexander's the guy that people probably don't know as well as these other guys.
I think if we're taking into account if Ibushi makes it all the way to the or to the quarterfinals rather, I think it may be Lindsay Dorado if he were to make it that far and we were to see Ibushi versus Dorado.
Yeah.
Are we going to start predicting the brackets?
Yeah. Well, one last question. Do you think that there's going to be a match in round 2 that's going to go to the full 20 minutes?
I don't think so. Not in round 2.
No,
because as they said, a draw leads to a bye for
right.
the opponent. So I don't think that we're going to get a bye.
No, even when they were talking about it during Gargano and Ciampa, it had only been 10 minutes.
Right.
So
do you think who do you think will use as much time as they possibly could?
Gulak.
That's an interesting.
Gulak and Sabre Jr. could probably go a full 18, 19 minutes.
Maybe Tajiri and Metalik though.
Maybe.
I mean, if like I said, if we get a real throwback to the days of Tajiri and Super Crazy, which I think we will.
Well, and speaking of that match, there were only 2 matches announced for the first episode of round 2, which is Grand Metalik and Tajiri,
right,
and Cedric Alexander and Kota Ibushi.
Well, because if they went for 4 matches an episode, we'd only get 2 episodes of the round 2.
They said 10 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're already at 4.
Right.
So
I think we're still gonna see 4 weeks of round 2,
and then 1 week of round 3 and 1 week of round 4.
I'd be into that, just 2 matches a week with a lot of video packages and stuff.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more training. Maybe catch up with the losers bracket, or maybe some losers bracket action. Maybe
interesting.
Who knows?
Yeah, I didn't even think about the possibility of non-tournament matches.
Why not?
Right.
We got
I
the
think
time.
We'll probably get some non-tournament.
Okay, then I'm gonna skip that next question. Did your favorite or pick to win change in between 1 and 2?
No, not at all.
All right, so let's take a look at round 2. We've got Akira Tozawa versus Jack Gallagher, which will be amazing.
I'm incredibly excited for that match.
All of these matches: Tajiri versus Grand Metalik, Drew Gulak versus Zack Sabre Jr., and I can't read
Noam Dar versus
Noam Dar versus Ho Ho Lun, Brian Kendrick versus Tony Nese, Kota Ibushi versus Cedric Alexander, TJ Perkins versus Johnny Gargano, and Lindsay Dorado versus Rich Swan. You could have started the tournament here and it would have been amazing, but we would have missed out on 16 fantastic competitors.
We would have missed out on those diamonds in the rough like Eichner and Mendoza.
Exactly,
and Ali.
Oh, dude, let's just make this a Mustafa Ali show. So did your picks to win change?
No.
No? None whatsoever?
No.
Goodness.
So let's go through second round, yeah?
Yeah, let's do that. Right. So Akira Tozawa, Jack Gallagher.
I so badly want Gallagher to win this now. I mean, as much as I love Tozawa, just Gallagher blew me away so much in the first.
I want him to desperately. I think Tozawa's going to take it.
Tozawa's got this.
I think this will be the closest that we're going to get to a comedy match, just by how full of character they both are.
Even if it's unintentional.
Even if it's unintentional, just this is such a huge clash of styles. It will be. I think it will be next to Lince Dorado and Rich Swan, which could do pretty well. The most entertaining match of round 2.
I think you're right for sure.
Tajiri versus Grand Metalik. Which
who
are
are
you
you
going to
picking
say?
for
Oh, who am
Tozawa?
I picking?
Yeah.
Jack Gallagher.
Okay.
Got it. I don't think. I think Gallagher could use a win more than Akira Tozawa.
Okay.
I don't think Akira Tozawa needed to be in this tournament really to get on anybody's radar. He's absolutely amazing, and Sasha Banks / Bailey's boyfriend. Not really. That's a perpetuated rumor.
What?
Sasha Banks' fiance is a seamster for the WWE.
Yeah, no, and he's a friend of mine. But he is. He's a seamster.
But I just love that word.
But no, Tozawa he's fun. But yeah, I think Gallagher can totally take it.
All right.
Tajiri, Grand Metalik.
I'm thinking Tajiri takes another one.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that this is what pushes Metalik further.
Okay.
I think he could use it more than Tajiri could.
Sure.
And then we get Grand Metalik versus Jack Gallagher. Which, what?
I'm thinking we'll get Tozawa and Tajiri with Tozawa taking an upset.
All right, okay. I mean, how's everybody's brackets from round 1? You were 15-1.
15-1, yeah. The only one I didn't call was Gargano and Ciampa.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the hardest one to call.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
You really, yeah. Gotta go.
Yeah,
you guys are going with this, not with your hearts, with your brain.
This one's really hard to call because Tajiri versus Tozawa in the third round seems like a natural thing to do, but I think Metalik will get the upset.
All right.
And yeah, I think Tajiri. Well, I mean, because I think Tajiri he hasn't used the mist yet.
Yeah.
And I know this isn't sort of a tournament
It's
about that, but not necessarily disqualified. But if he tries to hit it on a guy with a mask,
Oh yeah,
But his eyes aren't covered.
exactly, it won't work.
What?
He might go for it just thinking, well, this is all I have left, and then Metalik's like, what do you, bro?
But Metalik's eyes aren't covered. It would still.
Oh, I'm thinking of Lindsay's mask.
Yeah,
Excuse
yeah.
me. Either way, it could be fun. But yeah, I like where you're thinking, Ty. I disagree, but I'd be happy with either result.
Sure.
Then why don't we take a look at the opposite of that? Jack Gallagher and Tajiri, or Akira Tozawa and Grand Metalik?
Oh, are we going even
Yeah,
further past? I think it'll be Tozawa and Tajiri. I think Tozawa will take it, move on to the quarterfinals.
Goodness. All right.
Yeah, I think regardless of what happens in these two matches, I think that or three matches, I think Tozawa's going to move on to the quarterfinals.
Really? I think we're
whether
gonna,
it's Metalik or Tajiri that he faces, right?
I'm looking at Jack Gallagher and Zack Sabre Jr.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I would absolutely love to see that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just don't
fight
think
of the Brits.
Tozawa's going out that soon.
Right.
Because he's Tozawa and he hasn't really gotten a chance to really
Right.
shine yet.
And I think
that's what this next match is going to be.
Right.
I think, I don't think anyone was expecting Jack Gallagher to make as much of an impact as he had.
Yeah, to capture our hearts. So
Right, exactly, yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the next bit of the bracket. Drew Gulak, Zack Sabre Jr.
Zack
Sabre Jr.
Unfortunately,
Right.
it's
going to be just a grapple F match of
really
epic promotions.
The grapplist of Fs.
I'm going to grapple the F out of those Fs.
well. Noam Dar versus Ho Ho Lun.
All I want is for a more entertaining match than these guys had in the first round.
Yeah, I think
But
Noam Dar takes it, yeah.
I think Ho Ho Lun's got a good story behind him for what they were trying to tell with his
Right.
video package.
But they've told it.
I think
But I think
it was enough of an upset for him to beat Daivari. I don't think he's going to get two in a row.
Yeah, so Noam Dar versus Zack Sabre Jr. is what the entire panel is predicting.
and Zack Sabre Jr. will move on to the quarterfinals.
Takes that for sure. So I'm thinking, we're looking at then Tozawa versus Sabre Jr. in the quarterfinals.
I think that sounds about right.
That sounds good too.
And then Sabre Jr.
Or the semifinals. Am I saying
Yeah.
that wrong? The semifinals.
No, the quarters.
Oh, the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wait. No. Yeah.
Round 4.
Whatever.
Right.
Oh, jeez. And then Brian Kendrick versus Tony Nese.
Brian Kendrick.
Yeah, I think
Everybody going Kendrick. Kota Ibushi versus Cedric Alexander.
Ibushi.
Kota Ibushi, unfortunately, because Cedric is one of my favorite people from round 1.
Sure.
And I hope he's one of the people that gets to stick around. TJ Perkins versus Johnny Gargano. Are we seeing the Cinderella story of Gargano?
All I want is for TJ Perkins to not win this match.
No love for the Pinoy boy.
I think
Pinoy boy.
I think Gargano. I think Gargano's taking it.
What do you think?
You think Gargano? Yeah,
I mean, it's hard to say. This is one of the not quite so obvious ones right off the bat.
Yeah.
I think Gargano,
Especially because of how much the first round match took out of Gargano.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't go in. I think next to Ibushi, he's going in with the most momentum.
I don't know if you comparing the two matches from round one with TJ's and Johnny's. TJ didn't. It really wasn't like a hard fought victory.
That match with him and
It was kind
of that match. They tried to make it a comedy match, and
Right.
It didn't
work.
It was like the most skunking of the first round that we saw.
And so as a result, I don't think TJ. I'd say I'd put him on the bottom of the list of people with momentum.
Right.
I don't think he's like. It was kind of an easy win for him.
It was kind of a breeze, yeah.
So when put up with a guy like Johnny Gargano, who literally went through hell and had to beat his best friend, who beat the crap out of him, I'd say that he's kind of got it locked.
Right.
And then let's pull the image up one more time so we can get the last couple of rounds.
Lindsay Dorado and Rich
Lindsay
Swan.
Dorado and Rich Swan.
Rich Swan.
Yeah, I want some luchador representation, man.
I think we're gonna get a lot of because Grand Metalic's still in there, but
Well, no, I mean moving forward.
right, but
Because nobody's taking Grand Metalik versus Tajiri.
no, we
He's
You,
taking
that's right, we are.
it.
The two of us are.
Right.
us against the world, buddy.
As it's you and me.
But yeah, no, Swan's got this.
Yeah, that's another one that I kind of went back and forth on, but I'm going with Swan, yeah.
I think this will be, if the last match was super entertaining Swan, this will be super athletic Swan.
Right.
Where he might start out like super entertaining and then realize, okay, time to step it up.
Now, yeah,
so
exactly.
I got Lindsay Dorado across the ring for me.
Right.
All right, so before we go, just a couple of small topics that I wanted to discuss with you.
Are we going further on
Further
that
down the
a
line?
little bit?
I mean, we can.
Because at that point, we've
Gargano
got
and Swan.
Gargano and Swan.
Garswano.
Garswano. That's
Do we
their ship
think-
name.
I think it's got to be Gargano going past that.
So Gargano and Brian Kendrick?
I'll got Gargano and Ibushi.
I'm
And Ibushi.
I'm picking Swan to go on to the quarter.
Really? Okay.
Semifinals.
Swan,
Semifinals, yeah.
Yeah, I think despite how everything ended, did you guys watch the backstage interview with Johnny Gargano where Ciampa came up behind and just said Johnny Wrestling and left and Gargano was like, that means he likes me. And Kathy laughed because she does. So I think it may play up for that story of them being a tag team and maybe Ciampa having a little bit of a chomp on his shoulder. That was bad. That was really bad. And might cost Johnny the
You really
match.
made a Tomaso out of yourself.
I really did. Tom Asso. That's one of the Perkins of the job.
I hate this so much right now.
That's what Ibushi said. That was a pull. That was a real big pull. So
I still like my joke I made about Jack Gallagher with the picture of Anvil.
Amazing.
it's pretty good. So we're looking. So gentlemen, you're thinking final Zack Sabre Jr. Kota Ibushi.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the way the brackets are, it's hard to argue anything else.
I would prefer Tozawa versus Ibushi finals, but that's too much. Like you have to have a more international fight.
Right, exactly.
I
Yeah.
agree. Do you want to see any specific rule changes for the final?
How good a final would Tozawa versus Kendrick be?
That'd be incredible, yeah.
dude.
That's a match that needs to happen regardless.
Yeah, for sure.
Probably will. The
what was the
Cruiserweight
question?
division's coming back. Do you want any rule changes for the final? An extended
hour
time limit.
Hour time limit.
Time limit.
Because I think the final episode is just going to be the final.
Yeah.
And I believe that one's going to be shot live.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
no, it's gonna be live.
in a perfect world, I don't know how much this would affect things, but I would love to see a pure catch as catch can, not allowed to touch the ropes kind of a match.
Wow.
Right.
That would be
That
pretty
would be
phenomenal.
interesting, but that only really, like if it was like Gallagher versus Sabre, I could see that, or like Gulak versus Sabre. Like
Right.
They make an agreement to not touch the ropes or anything. But there's just so many different styles in play here.
Sure.
That
And if Ibushi
not
is
everyone
involved,
can really.
you can't.
Yeah. People want to see because
Not so he's
one of the only things that hasn't been given away yet is that missed moonsault into another moonsault.
Oh, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So I mean,
he's not quite as
gonna
grapple
pull
of
out
an F.
everything
Right.
in the finals and the semifinals, I think.
All right, gentlemen, before we go, let's talk a little bit about the future of the Cruiserweight division in the WWE. How many of these competitors in the tournament do you suspect will be involved in the Cruiserweight division on Raw?
I think maybe between 6 and 8.
Really?
I think, yeah.
Keep it small.
I think I could see it being as many as 12.
I was thinking 12 to 16.
Because you also have people who are in NXT going to be called up. Like, I imagine that the actual Cruiserweight division will be like between 12 and 20 people.
Interesting. I mean,
Just because there's so many people
a
to
big
pull
division,
from.
though.
No, it's a huge division, but there's so much talent there now.
Sure.
Well, also, but you do also have to keep NXT stocked. So
Exactly.
And
I'd say like about 12.
And you've got to wonder how much time they're actually going to devote to this division.
Right. 2 matches a week, 1 match a week.
Right. Well,
Is it all going to be for the
we're already
championship?
seeing how the women's divisions are suffering with only being like 5 or 6 women on each show.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So we want to pad that out a little bit. Do you want the presentation on Raw to be similar to the CWC?
Well, the presentation on Raw has already changed. So
Well, true, but I mean specifically
but
like
not
how
quite like
how Sin Cara used to get special lighting. Do you want it to be a little bit different?
I mean, it can be, but I think that the reason it's like it is because this is the CWC.
Yeah. I wouldn't want it to see it portrayed quite as similarly to MMA. I don't. They don't need the handshakes. They don't need the winner being announced after the match. With both in the ring, things like that. I think it
works for the tournament.
I
but
like
not for
that
Raw.
it's specific to this. Yeah.
Okay, fair play. And the last thing that's been kind of a rumor and unconfirmed: do you think that the prize for the CWC should be the championship, the new Cruiserweight Championship? Yeah, I agree. So I agree as well. They've been showing that beautiful trophy, but it might be a perk of the job. So, gentlemen, we do not a Perkins of the job. We do not know when we will be back because we don't know how long round 2 will take. But we will be here discussing round 2 and looking forward to round 3. But before we go, final thoughts, gentlemen, about round 1 of the Cruiserweight Classic.
Got better as it went along.
Yeah.
Looking forward to round 2.
It was exactly what we really wanted. I talked about how excited we were to see a classic tournament like this, and I think the vast majority of the matches really delivered.
Mm-hmm. It was full of what you wanted from a tournament. People you expected to do well and unexpected standouts. Fabian Eichner, just goodness.
Definitely.
And Mustafa Ali, amazing competitors
and I think
all
just
the way around.
More than that, I love that this is shining a light for the WWE audience on the fact that there's wrestling outside of WWE.
And different styles, not just the
Exactly.
all right, pin towards camera.
I think we really underestimate how much of the WWE universe, quote unquote, knows only that product.
Yeah.
And so I think the fact that telling people, look, this happens everywhere on the planet is just a step in the right direction.
And it makes people look elsewhere for these different types of wrestlers, and it gives them something to go back home with. If they don't win, if they don't stick around with the company, it gives them something to go back home with, and then maybe people keep tabs on them, and that makes them even more popular when they come back to the WWE. So,
Exactly.
Until we return for the round 2 bracket breakdown, gentlemen, where can the folks find you on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at Sundown Motel. You can check out all of our wrestling coverage at withspandex.com, uproxx.com/sports. And every Wednesday night on NXT After Show.
That's you, Bill. Ty.
You can find me on all forms of social media at Ty Matthews PMA. All forms: Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, PlayStation Network. Come play some Mortal Kombat with me. You can find me on Monday nights on the Monday Night Raw panel, on Wednesday nights on the American Ninja Warrior panel, and you can catch me on Saturdays on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, 3 p.m. Tough TV, Fight TV, Patreon, KDOC, U2 America. Yeah. Or if you're local to Southern California, come check us out, Port Hueneme, every second and fourth Sunday of the month, 4 p.m. or 3 p.m. rather. It's completely free.
Look at this beautiful man. Look at these beautiful men. Look at us beautiful people talking about wrestling. I'm the internet's Mark B. Donica. You can find me on Twitter at Mark B. Donica. As Bill said, we do the NXT After Show every Wednesday. Watch all of our wrestling content. We have our Tuesday night SmackDown Live After Show. Make sure to join us there. But until then, follow all of us. Follow at AfterBuzz TV. We will let you know when we're going to be doing our round 2 update. But until then, we will see you at the CWC.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later!
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.